talk about the educated woman, I hear in this space, not necessarily in this chunk, because we were talking about it for a reason, but I hear about it in this space. But she's not even the majority of the black women. Okay? The majority don't have college degrees. Okay? That's a fact. So why are we even talking about her when she's not even the majority? It's kind of like when we talk about the high value man, they're not the majority. You understand? So if we're talking about a minority, why are we even looking at minority of women? Just like, why are we even looking at minority of men? Why aren't we focused on the majority? And majority are not educated black women. They're not.
And the majority of men are not out here having babies out of wedlock.
What?
Welcome back to Money, Marriage, and Media. Today we're with Lapeef Jr. and the show is She Critique. The title is Woman Says the Educated Woman is Not the Majority. YouTube Talking Points. Still looking for 1,000 subscribers, but we're going to jump right in. Before we get started though, I kind of understand because I'm almost certain Shan is going to make this point. A lot of times these YouTube talking points, for those of you that don't know, these are major talking points that come up on these shows and these podcasts all the time, but you rarely see, they don't match what happens in real life. It's only a thing on YouTube. So yeah, let's go.
So many people talking about and I know we talked about this tonight because that's our show, but I'm just saying in the manosphere, we talk about the educated woman when she's not even the majority. Why can't, if she's a non-factor and education doesn't matter, why do we have to even talk about her? Let's talk about what the minority. You understand? Unless you're saying that there is something about her that's different than the minority, which means her education does matter, whether it be the way she moves, she carries herself a little bit different, she looks a little bit different, she cares about different things a little bit differently than before. So if you can't acknowledge that there's a difference, then why are we even talking about her? Let's just focus on the majority. And majority of black women are not educated. They're just not. They're in trades.
From what I've heard, just speaking to younger women, a lot of them are saying that they would, hey Marcus, that they're not attracted to men with that big of an age gap. So if they're like between 18 and 20, that they're not attracted to a guy that's in their 40s.
And they're not willing to date a 25-year-old grinder.
Yo, it's so crazy.
Am I this right?
Women want men in their social age group and expect them to make $100,000 more.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it is the funniest thing.
Yeah, we all know that to be true.
But let me.
It's not realistic.
But they work too and got a degree at the same time or something like.
Right. So let's take the degree. Let's take the degree out of it because what.
That's a good point. That's crazy. I never thought about that, but he's right. Y'all went to the same school, got the same degree, but all of a sudden, because he's a guy, who expect him to come out and make $40,000 more a year than what she's making. Wow. You know what? I don't think it's that extreme. Especially if you've gotten to know that person over time. But I mean, I can see that happening, but I don't think if you've met somebody and y'all have gotten to know each other like throughout college, that expectation is going to be a lot lower than that.
Well, we said that is not we always talk about that degree woman and she is not the majority.
Okay, level of experience.
Okay, so the woman who is the majority, let's talk about the majority woman right now. The woman who has a trade with, I don't know where she working. That woman.
Ulta Beauty.
I spent all my money at that damn place.
They all want to be muas. What do they call muas?
Mac counter. God, she's at the Mac counter. Let's think about this woman, okay? Why can't we have more conversation about this woman in trying to change her mind on things? Because she's the majority.
She's the most delusional woman on earth.
But then she's the one who needs to change her mind because she's delusional.
No, you can't. So I believe that is literally negotiating with a terrorist. Try talking to
the majority, though.
Look, Go watch Cheeky's show from earlier. Anna Margaret is 23. She has been a stripper on OnlyFans.
That is not a good example, Trigger by. Come on.
Like,
Yeah,
yo,
Anna's a terrible example of Jesus.
So if she is
Like
okay,
what?
if she is
I don't know who they're
delusional,
talking
if
she
about.
she's
is
not-
delightfully single and saying that she wants to smash as many men as she wants to
She-
and then be ready for a
All
man
the
at 30.
time.
So let me ask you a question. Would you not agree that there's a different mentality of a woman who goes to get her formal education and there's a woman who does not?
You said, is there a what?
Yeah.
Would you agree that there's a different mentality for the woman who goes to get her formal education than the woman who does not? Even if it's basket weaving, there's a mentality that she's a little different. Because if you're saying that you can't even talk to look, because you just said, I said, let's focus on the majority. And you didn't even want to focus on the majority because you're like, no, they just delusional. You put them all in the box. They're all delusional. So with that being said, you have classified that there's a difference between the two. Okay? So
I think there used to be.
You said what? There used to be?
There used to be. Because hear me out. There used to be a difference. And of course there are women that there are upstanding women that, outstanding in their studies. They maintain their body. They make sure that they're seen as viable candidates for marriage. Like the group is getting smaller, but
Social
those women
media.
come out of college and preserve themselves for that because that's the way they want to be seen.
Okay.
But hear me out. There's no difference between the degreed woman's actions and the man they're smashing and the 23-year-old OnlyFans model. There's no difference. Their baby daddies all look the same.
So they're both a hot mess. So why do
Yeah.
we focus on the
Wait,
minority
hold on
and
real
not the
quick.
majority?
I can tell you what's a hot mess. These likes. There's 92 people up in here. There's 9 likes. Get them likes.
Hey, like the video, guys. Yeah, YouTube metrics are important. So like this video. But since I got it paused here, this is a great question because we don't spend enough time talking about this. Just for reference's sakes, I am a fan of college education if you got a way to pay for it. It's not worth going into debt over. It's not. But it should also be noted that what is the mentality? Is the mentality different from a woman who goes to college versus one who doesn't? From a relationship standpoint, I'm not sure that there is one. There is a difference because education is like college education is not going to help you become a better spouse. It's not. College education from a woman's standpoint will give you a chance to meet a better classification of men, but men don't like education is rarely is not an attraction trigger for most of us. So, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm waiting to hear some examples of this. So, because I've never heard that question before, and it's a great question. But my initial thoughts is not really. Their mentality is not that much different. Because most people are going to college to get a better paying job. And the majority of women don't actually end up doing that because of the degree, because of the programs that they go into, the degrees they get. It doesn't really translate that well. It might be a little bit more money, but it's not. Most women aren't picking careers. Most women have jobs. Even college educated women, most of them have jobs because they're picking social sciences, which, yeah.
Get the likes up.
Hot mess.
Tap that like button right now.
All right.
I get that a woman, but what I'm trying to point out is I hear so many people talking about and I know we talked about this tonight because that's our show, but I'm just saying in the manosphere, we talk about the educated woman when she's not even the majority. Why can't, if she's a non-factor and education doesn't matter, why do we have to even talk about her? Let's talk about what the minority. You understand? Unless you're saying that there is something about her that's different than the minority, which means her education does matter, whether it be the way she moves, she carries herself a little bit different, she looks a little bit different, she cares about different things a little bit differently than before. So if you can't acknowledge that there's a difference, then why are we even talking about her? Let's just focus on the majority. And
Okay, I kind of get what he's saying, what she's saying, but here's the problem though. The manosphere or male oriented content when it comes to dating, the reason why there's so much emphasis on the educated woman is because so many women use that as a WMD, as a weapon of mass destruction. A lot of times women will throw that in the man's face, especially if he doesn't have a college education. And they'll do that to demean him, to emasculate him. So this is why I said it became a focus of male-oriented content, because this was happening to a lot of guys. A lot of guys were saying that women were it was a shared experience from women who are on the dating scene who are unmarried. Now, in all actuality, it is exactly the way Shan talks about. These are a minority of women out there who actually have degrees. The problem is, like I said, is that the ones that do, a lot of times they end up trying to use it against the man.
Majority of Black women are not educated. They're just not.
Yeah.
They're
They're
in
not.
trades.
They're addicted to social media. They all are. So
What does that have to do with it?
yeah,
All of them are addicted to most of them.
all of them. All of them.
Right. So
Didn't they ask somebody on a panel, if you could get married right now to the right man and abandon your Instagram, would you? What did all the girls say? No. They're all addicted to social media.
You just move the
do you
goalpost.
understand my question? Am I
No, I don't. Somebody
Okay.
idea.
So does anybody understand my
You
question?
just changed the
Not
subject
really.
because he didn't understand the question.
So okay. We talk about the educated woman. I hear in this space, not necessarily in this chunk, because we were talking about it for a reason, but I hear about it in this space. But she's not even the majority of the Black women. Okay? The majority don't have college degrees. Okay? That's a fact. So why are we even talking about her when she's not even the majority? It's kind of like when we talk about the high value man, they're not the majority. You understand? So if we're talking about a minority, why are we even looking at minority of women? Just like, why are we even looking at minority of men? Why aren't we focused on the majority? And majority are not educated Black women. They're not.
And the majority of men are not out here having babies out of wedlock.
What?
Like what we were talking about earlier. If we're talking about majority, the majority of Black men are actually not out here having babies out of wedlock and being absentee fathers. That's just not the majority. That is the minority.
Fatherless homes. So when we talk about fatherless homes, we weren't talking about the men themselves, but we're talking about the home, fatherless homes.
Yeah, but still, that's the majority of men.
Okay, the point he's trying to make is that we do that with both men and women, and that's an interesting point. I think the what we got to focus in on here is where we want this conversation to end up. Like, in other words, what's the goal here? Are we trying to break down the gender war? Because if we are, then this is a great talking point. Is that, okay, we need to focus on the majority. How are the majority of relationships out there? Well, the majority of women are not educated, so we need to move the conversation to the middle and keep it there. It's the same thing. What the AP is trying to say is that we focus so much on these men who are this negative stereotype of men who are out here having all these babies, but it's a small portion of the actual men. I get it, but it's not really relating to the topic. So it's Shan has a point. I agree with her. Is that's an overused talking point, and it does need to die down, because all that does is insight. We're experiencing it right now. The goalpost got moved because, it takes you're starting to take away the men's ammo for the gender war. All those stats that come with educated women about, higher divorce rates and everything else, they become pointless because most women don't have higher education. Makes sense to me. I don't know.
But
are
we
not
weren't
part
talking
of
about men.
fatherless homes.
We
Wait,
weren't
hold
talking
on.
about
I
men.
need you to clarify your question. Shan, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. You're saying that in terms of potential marriage, why are men focused more on the educated woman when there are minority, when they have more options of choosing those who are not educated? Is that what the question is?
Absolutely. So if
Okay.
education is a problem, okay, educated women come with attitudes. Educated women come with all of these things because of their education. Just choose from the majority.
That's a
Well,
great
we could
point.
say
The
that we could
majority
say,
of women are not educated.
and the majority of women don't want the average 5'8" man either,
Gotcha.
making $65,000 a year or 45. I mean, I don't know what the actual number is, but that they
Less than
want the
40.
hiring man. The hiring man wants the educated woman. It becomes circular, right?
You said what now? I'm sorry. Repeat. I'm sorry.
So
I'm reading the chat.
Everybody want what they, I ain't gonna say can't have, because I do think you have, but that's what you're saying. Everybody is focused on the things that they
That are rare.
want, that is kind of what they think might be out of their reach.
the majority wants the minority
Right.
on both sides.
Okay.
Shan,
I
Shan, could you explain,
Go ahead.
but in your perception, how you see them, how you're hearing them talk about educated women? Maybe that add more clarity to it. Like, what are you hearing them say? That's bringing that up for you.
So what I hear in these spaces is, oh, she always brings up her education. She always, the negative. And I know I've seen it myself. I told mistaken. I ain't never heard a woman say that, but I've met one that does do that. But so I know that they exist. But my
Mhm.
question is, why are we dwelling on them when they are the minority? Majority of the black women don't have education. They don't have a formal education outside of high school. That's a fact. Majority are
Yeah.
not. So with that being said,
It's
okay, choose a
propaganda.
girl who, that's a problem. If you're getting that consistently with an educated formal education woman, just don't choose a formally educated woman. Go to a woman who's not formally educated. Because
Okay,
she
I
can't
think
about the education she ain't got.
okay, I think I understand the question. So I don't think it's so much about the. Can you still see me?
I guess.
Mhm.
mhm.
You're static a little bit though.
Mhm.
I,
Marky Mark.
you can hear me though, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
You're
Let's
Yeah.
talk.
starting
I'll
to.
tell you if you take it to.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, you
So I think I
froze.
understand the question.
Go ahead. I hear you
Did I
now.
come back yet?
You did.
All right.
Like,
So the the issue is if you like looked at a lot of KS videos, he had a sounding board, right? And I'm a PhD was one of them. And on there it was like a list of things that women who were delusional to the point that maybe they wouldn't get married hit a check mark list. So I think that just gets grouped in there. It's like what's your dress size? So you fell into that category because you hear men complaints typically about the same list of things. And a lot of that stuff is what KS used to talk about, right? Like overweight, attitude, or I'm a PhD. And I think PhD don't just reference education; it reference
Reference
I'm
a
better than
mindset.
you mind state. So that's really what they're
Yep.
saying. So you don't really even have to have a PhD to have that mind state. It's just to assume that you're better than the men that would be your equal uh, cohort. So it's not as much an education
Wow.
issue as a
Yeah.
I'm better than you or inflated and maybe even delusional self-esteem issue.
I think it's also from social media too. So even the women.
You know what? Marcus has a point because if that's the case, then it applies to the majority of women because we've already seen this have play out in real time. The average woman thinks she is better than the average man. So I think the education was just what do you call it? A red herring to a deeper issue that we have going on that's perpetuating the gender war. I think what it boils down to is that, a lot of men are saying that women have too high of an opinion of themselves. This is why you get content like Kevin Samuels getting popularized because he's bringing women down a peg and all this other stuff and blah, blah, blah. You know, this inserts the YouTube part of it too because in real life, it's not happening like that. In real life, if you're a woman and you can't, well, in real life, you're single. If you're a woman and that's your attitude, you're probably gonna be single, because number one, it's not enough high value being to go around. We already know that. But number two, the reality is that most women will never meet a man that's high value. They're never gonna see him in their lifetime, not in person. So again, you end up with a generation of single women. So I don't even think you need, at this point, I wouldn't even try and hold women accountable for that stuff, because they're already being held accountable. They're single.
Women that haven't maybe gotten, because again, I don't think it's necessarily all the time the education, because I have met or I've seen women. I mean, we can find examples for all of these different things, but regardless, I think that even women who are not educated or are going to school are still exposed to these different things and are getting and receiving attention maybe too, like us women do, but then they get that sense of entitlement, but also that attitude and that mindset, I guess.
I guess for me, I think that then we should tackle that. You know what I'm saying? Because it gives a false sense that you're talking about educated women when you're not talking about educated women. Just go after
women in general.
Women in general and say, look, y'all all have an attitude. When you come into the relationship, I guess because they literally say the talking point is, oh, you lead with your education, so that will only be educated women, because
they also include you lead with your money. You lead with your profession.
Okay.
With,
yep. Even though most women,
your BBL. I don't know, something that would give you.
Your BBL.
I might not be a good example, but
that's even smaller percentage.
yeah. Maybe the BBL.
Right.
But it's speaking to a mind frame. Like, if you ever been around somebody who puts value on something more so than anybody else, and then tries to make you assign that same value, that's more the conversation.
Well, again, let me just, y'all not gonna sit here and influence me that everybody out here balling. I don't believe
there's no way.
There's no way, right?
The majority of Americans make $50,000. Like, what?
No, they don't. They make less.
Be okay with that. So if you know that that's I'm not understanding why you just won't date that chick.
How often do you see women say, "I'm independent, I don't need no man"? Or how often have you?
That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I don't think women will settle sometimes.
Now that they going to get the food stamps, they need a man.
I'll be honest. I have never been in a situation where I've seen women that say, and again, maybe it's because of my age group, is, I don't want no man. I don't need no man. I haven't seen that. Most women that I know have already, if they are saying,
that's because she's never dated women as a man. Women don't tell each other that stuff. They only say that when men are around.
That it is a matter of they've already been married and got divorced, and now they're like, I'm done with that. I don't want to get married anymore. But never have I heard any women say that they don't want a man or need a man.
So I think the translation from that to current day, because that might have been like the 90s, early 2000s, where that was like a real phrase. Now I think the translation, or at least how men perceive it, is I don't want a man. No, I don't need a man. I want a man.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound sustainable over a long time.
That's problematic.
And I think that all women, I think when they say that, they're not thinking, because I think all women need a man. They just don't they can't think of right now what they need a man for. Because it's been times you be like, it'd be great to have a man in the house right now for something, and you don't think about it until that time comes. So I think that I have heard women on the internet, not in real life, but on the internet, use those talking points, but I call it bluff. I think it's all bluff.
I think. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I think that both sexes have like they talking points that they think are universally translatable, and they translate very differently than what they're actually saying. Because if from listening to the women say, "I don't want a man, I don't need a man, I want a man," what I believe they're trying to say is, my life is pretty good, and I don't want you to feel like I'm beholden to you in order to survive.
Here's the problem with that, right? Life is not that good. It's not. We still need each other. At the end of the day, men need women, women need men. The problem with the whole statement is that I don't need a man, I want one. Number one, that's a lie, because you do need them, because most women are not making enough money to make it through the end of life through retirement. You need a man. Yeah. The other thing is the problem with that statement is that it actually speaks to the divorce rate. What are you talking about, Mike? Very simple. Women change their mind a lot. Nothing wrong with that. It's just biology at work. Women get emotional. Their emotions fluctuate. So you want this man now, 2 weeks from now, that changes. Then we have a problem, especially if we're talking marriage, because that's what we do on this side of the camera. We talk about the goal is marriage. I don't care how many times you've been proposed to, but you get married to this man, and 3 years down the line, you don't want him anymore. Well, now you spend the next 2 years getting a divorce. We need each other. See, the quicker we start to figure that out, the quicker that we start, or the less time we waste deluding ourselves on what the actual truth is. Guys, this video is about done. So, well, let's wrap it up.
Because I'm not beholden, I want you to know that I actually am choosing you. So to me, what I'm saying is better than I need you. It's I want you, because I have everything I need, and yet I still want you. But that's not how men hearing that. Men, we typically hear that like we want to be needed.
That's a fact.
If somebody, you know what I'm saying? Somebody called me and say, "Hey, can you help me move? I don't need you to, but I like you to." And then somebody else called me and say, "Hey, I need you to help me move. I really need you to." I could be better friends with the person that said, "I want you to help me," but I'm gonna help the person that said, "I need you."
Yeah, exactly. Look, this was a great conversation because again, this whole I agree with Shan that this whole educated woman, the attributes that come with women with degrees is a waste. It's becoming a wasted conversation. There are more. There's more of the female population that we need to focus in on, because even the uneducated women, the merit rates don't change. It's still the same, and it's still still divorce rate is still high. The majority of those divorces are being initiated by women. So I think what we need to do is we may need to drop this all this tropes that come with educated women, because it's a waste of conversation. Like she said, the majority of black women do not have graduate degrees. They don't have postgraduate degrees. So I think where the deeper issue lies in is that it's not just they're holding their education over you. It's the average woman thinks she is better than the average man. Insert random tool that she's using to express that: education, income, etc. The point is that average people need to be together, because that's just for the best outcomes. When you start, because relationships are about balance. So look, guys, great conversation again. We got to start breaking down these gender war topics, and educated women in marriage. That was definitely one of them. And this was a great breakdown. I'm gonna say goes to the next time. Peace.